Welcome to the Beyond Anxiety podcast, where we talk about dismantling mental health stigmas, mental health awareness through education, and strategies for overcoming mental health challenges. My name is Darius Fennell, and I am a mental health and therapy advocate, published author, speaker, and coach. I am so excited for you to be here and so excited to get into this next episode. Let's go. Well, once again, welcome to the Beyond Anxiety podcast. This is season 1, episode 1, and I'm so glad that you are here. Thank you for tuning in. Today's episode, being the first, will be about my personal mental health journey. And so future episodes will feature guests that are clinicians, mental health advocates, folks that I call hope champions, folks that have overcome their own mental health challenges and have a story to tell, as well as other experts. But today, I want to explain a little bit of why I'm even doing any of this stuff, any of the mental health advocacy, why I'm so big on wanting to dismantle stigmas, is because of all the things that I've been through in my own personal life, my own personal struggles with mental health. I was diagnosed back in 2018 with generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, as well as depression. But the truth is, I've had those all my life. I didn't realize that there was an actual name and label for the specific types of symptoms that I was experiencing. I just kind of coped with it and made best do and just survived the symptoms on a daily basis. So where am I now in this journey? I don't like to use the word cured. I still do have my ups and downs. I have my challenges. I like to use the word evolved, right? And 3 main truths that I've kind of had takeaways for with this journey through just, to hell and back, really. It's 3 things, right? Control and certainty are illusions. Vulnerability and acceptance are superpowers, and discomfort is a teacher and an ally. Now, these lessons and truths were not learned, nor were they accepted overnight. But where the breaking point for me was the beginning of January 2018, when right in the middle of a noontime nap, I woke up into my first major panic attack. And let me tell you how that was one of the most frightening things in the world, because I did not link any of this stuff to mental health or anxiety or panic or any of the things that I was later diagnosed with. I thought I was having a heart attack because that's what it felt like, right? So long story short, as I'm waking up, my heartbeat goes over 140 beats per minute. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? So I just finished a work assignment that normally would take me 3 to 4 weeks to do, and I completed it in 3 hours. So there's your first clue towards, perfectionism and overworking and trying to overachieve. And as I thought I was going to take a nap and find myself refreshed, find my body telling me, you've done this to me for 20 years, 20, 30 plus years. And today that's going to end. And so welcome to the world of panic disorder, as well as permanent fight or flight and adrenaline rushes and everything else. So, we speed off to the hospital. And I remember as I'm driving on the way there, I'm thinking like, wow, I'm no longer invincible. This illusion of thinking I could treat my body anyway and eat the way I wanted to and not get sleep like I wanted to and still be able to be resilient was gone. And I'm thinking, wow, like, is this really my last day here on earth? I remember thinking about my kids, my wife, do they know where the life insurance papers are? So I tell my wife to go ahead and remarry. Like I'm thinking about, in my mind, it's over. I get to the hospital and they run a preliminary test. And sure enough, everything is showing indications of, panic. I'm still in my mind thinking about this is probably some type of heart disorder because I've had anxiety all my life. It has never felt like this. So it's got to be something else, right? So that 1 day visit turns into a 5-day stay at the hospital. And they're running tests every day. They're doing blood work and all the other things that you could think of under the sun to test for whatever they think I may have. Everything comes back negative. Mr. Fennell, we can't find anything on paper or metric wise that would indicate that you have a problem. Last day, they told me before sending me home, just take it easy, which really made me angry because I'm like, if it was that simple, I wouldn't be in here. And they said, follow up with your primary care physician. Big problem with that was you're not always able to go and see your doctor the next day, right? Depending on the time of the year, depending on how busy they are, how popular they are, you may have to wait a whole month before you can actually get in and be seen. I'm going home from the hospital the same way that I came in. The panic disorder didn't stop. The anxiety attacks didn't stop. All these things were continuing to manifest themselves within me. And this kind of leads into like what has me going from being an introvert to an advocate, to someone who's extremely private, don't like to share my personal business, to, writing a book, being published in magazines, going on podcasts and telling my story, going to conferences and telling my story. It's because of empathy, right? I didn't want anybody to have to experience what I did. And that's being sent home from the hospital with a mental health disorder and having no plan and no path forward. It was one of the most hopeless and helpless and devastating feelings I think I've ever experienced in my life. Because I'm thinking, what do I do now? This is uncharted territory for me. And it's not going away. And it's getting worse. Right? So what did I end up doing through all those things? Well, the first thing I had to do was come out of my denial of, oh, this isn't a mental health issue. It's something else. And after multiple visits with my cardiologist, who I tried to explain to him that I had a heart issue, this is where denial comes in, right? I tried to explain to him that it was a heart problem. After, again, additional tests showing that there was nothing wrong, I finally said, okay, I accept the fact that this is likely something else. Let's explore the mental health avenue. And so I signed up for therapy, and it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. My only regret now, I don't have a lot of regrets in my life, but this is a major one for me. To this day, I'll continue to talk about and why I press this so hard on other people. Not press on them, but suggest to them. Make strong recommendations for is, had I done this much earlier in my life, and that is going to therapy, I could have avoided so many things. But one of the reasons why that I did not go, and one of the whole kind of pillars of the podcast that I'm doing right now, is because of mental health stigmas, right? And what is a stigma? A stigma can be defined as a mark of disgrace or shame, right? Things that you don't want to be associated with because you don't want that label on you, right? And what are the labels? Oh, if you go to therapy, you're weak. If you go to therapy, that means you're crazy. If you go to therapy, that means that you're too lazy to man up, right? And all these things are lies. These are things, placed on us by either culture or what society says or how things are defined in terms of being courageous and brave. And I fell victim to mental health stigmas. And I knew for years that therapy was something that I should have done. But at the time, I worried about what people would think about me. I wonder how I think about myself. And really, now that I've gone to therapy and all the things that I thought would happen during an appointment or during a therapy session, totally opposite and totally not true. And so these are the types of things that motivate me to share now, is that once you've left a burning building and you see the possibility of other people walking in that building, why not give them the warning to say, hey, it's hot in there. You may not want to go in there. Let me show you a few of my scars and things that I've gone through that may show you that that choice of ignoring the different symptoms that you're going through or worried about the perception that you're going to have if you decide to go and get help. I did all those things, and here was the result of it. 4 years of constant, nonstop, permanent, being stuck in fight or flight, waking up in the morning and starting the day with an anxiety attack. And it not ceasing until it's time to go to bed if you're able to go to sleep, right? It was my body's call to me to say, hey, we've been trying to get your attention for years now, decades now. And now we're going to make sure that you hear us when we're trying to tell you that there are areas of your life that have been neglected, whether it's mental, physical, or emotional. And I had to address all those. And I had to go see a specialist for each person, right? I had lost about probably 50 pounds during that whole ordeal. And my primary care physician was basically like, yeah, you're not getting enough food. I feel like this is starting to go to a very bad place. I'm going to send you to a dietitian. So I went to go see a dietitian. My muscles had locked up in different parts of my body, mostly within my shoulder and my hips and my back. So it made it very, very difficult to just do basic stuff like walking and going up and down the steps. So I had to go to physical therapy and address the atrophy and other things that have come from just sitting around the house and working from home and other things that were, forms of duty, but still allowed me to push myself into a lack of self-care. And so those are just a few examples of just really having to humble myself, become a student of myself, and be open to be, examine myself and look into things that, whether they're limiting belief systems, certain mindsets, and certain habits that need to be changed, you need someone who can tell you areas of your life where recommendations can be made to where you could probably make better choices. Nobody can ever force you to do anything that you don't want to do. But if your choices are not reflecting the life that you want to live or leading to a fruitful life, which mine was not, because your quality of life goes down, your sense of confidence goes down, you lose your ability to want to go anywhere. I had reached levels of not wanting to leave the house that reached levels of agoraphobia, right? And if you've ever encountered that, or probably never even heard that word before, I know I didn't until it happened to me, is you really don't want to leave, not just your house, but I got to the point I didn't want to leave my bedroom. If I wasn't using the bathroom or brushing my teeth, the dread of having to go somewhere and risk having a panic attack or an anxiety attack, or even just like a severe form of dissociation where you feel like you're in a dream world. I just didn't want to deal with that. And it was so heavy and so constant that it's like, man, how do I get out of this? And so the mindset I have now is if I can take all those lessons that I learned, those experiences that I go through, the strategies that I came up with as I went through the journey and the recovery, and package those in such a way that I can help other people. The first kind of method of doing that was publishing my book. And so I do have my book, my little plug here, Leaving Jupiter, Navigating Your Anxiety Recovery, which I wrote back in and published back in late 2022, early 2023, just to put all that into a simplistic, digestible way of explaining how do you go from hopeless, helpless, no plan to recovery, right? And the reason why the subtitle is Navigating Your Anxiety Recovery, because it may be different from my journey. It may not look like mine. My symptoms were rooted in different things that I had evaluated through my primary care physician, through my dietitian, through my therapist, through my physical therapist. All these different people had to assess where I was and give me a customized plan to recovery in each one of those different subcategories. And I had to be humble enough to say, you know what, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to come out of this, and I need help. But again, this is why vulnerability is such a superpower, is because in the right environment, in the most healthiest of environments where you have a safe space to ask for help, such as therapy, such as your primary care physician, if you decide to take the journey and follow through with the things that you've been given to improve your life, you will be so happy with yourself the way I'm happy with mine. Now, have I done everything perfectly and followed everything my therapist has had to say? No, right? Because the mind loves the familiar. So even if you come into truth, even if you come into understanding that, hey, this way of thinking, this way of living isn't right, there's still resistance going to be there, because guess what? It's familiar. And the subconscious mind does not like the unfamiliar. And you have to make the unfamiliar familiar, right? We'll get into that in a whole different episode. And especially I'll probably have a clinician, a therapist come in and kind of explain some of those things from a clinical standpoint. So yeah, this is what motivates me. This is why I'm here. This is why I want to have on guests and have these conversations and let people tell their story, how far they've come, what they had to overcome, how they overcame it, and what things that they wish that they had done differently. Like for me, I wish I'd gone to therapy earlier. I wish I'd taken better care of my body, my sleep habits, going to the gym, going for walks, and doing those things that just nurture your soul. You know, you regard yourself as a machine, regard yourself as someone who's just a worker bee and fixes everybody else. And while your own self is deteriorating and ignoring all the different warning signs that your body is telling you. You know, I was having heart palpitations. I was having little bouts of anxiety attacks, but because it was so common and normal to me, I just ignored it and I'm just going to keep pushing. I'm going to keep going. But at some point, the bill comes due. And my body just said, you're not going to ignore us any longer. So we have something for you. You're not going to like it, but we will get your attention. Now that we have your attention, you have some choices to make. And so I made the choices. And it was not an overnight recovery. I would say it took about a good 4 years before I felt a new sense of stability and really letting go of that old identity that I thought I needed to have and be to survive. And today is about living. It's about flourishing. It's about growing. It's about evolving. And it's about legacy. And so if you want to be a part of that journey with me, then continue to tune in here. I can also be reached on Instagram and TikTok, as well as LinkedIn under the handle Beyond Anxiety, as well as YouTube, where I'll be posting this podcast, as well as many different other podcast platforms, which I will share down in the comment section or the description of this particular podcast. But I want to thank you for journaling. Just journaling. Yes, that's another aspect. Get yourself a journal so that you can capture the different things that you are dealing with, whether it's your thoughts, whether it's your physical symptoms, whether it's things that you've never told anybody about. You're going to need to be able to articulate those things to the specialist. And I believe in an integrative approach where, yes, there are certain things that, holistically you can look at, different supplements and things that you can get into, but you want to be under the care of a licensed professional. This is why I believe in partnerships with your primary care physician, partnerships with a licensed therapist, partnerships with a licensed dietitian, because over time they will understand your history, the trends, your habits, and different things that need to be customized and changed so that you can recover and become a whole new person. If you're ready for that journal, I want to do it with me, right? Then this is the place for you. I thank you once again for coming along and listening to episode 1. I'm looking forward to episode 2, and I will be announcing the guest over the next week. And thank you for listening. I'm Darius Fennell from Beyond Anxiety, telling you to find your recovery path. Take care, Hope Champions. Until next time.